Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Chris Heasley Show. I'm Caleb Holmes, founder of the Texas Legislative Youth Advisory Council, filling in for Chris today. Chris is spending some well-deserved time with his family this weekend before Thanksgiving. And let me tell you, family is what's in season, and our movement is all about it. Now, with Thanksgiving just around the corner, it's time to reflect on what truly matters: faith, family, and freedom. It's also time to think about what's ahead for our country because, let's be honest, 2024 has been a wild ride for politics, from the election results that have brought surprises to both parties and to the crucial issues that we're still facing right now. There's no shortage of things to talk about, so let's get straight into it. Today, I've got a fantastic lineup. Joining me are the founder and co-founders of Urban Conservatives of America, Jonathan McCullen and Sean Scott. Two incredible voices for grassroots conservatives in communities that the left thinks they own. We'll talk about the state of our movement, the role of urban America plays in shaping our future, and how we can connect voters who've been fed a steady diet of liberal policies that simply aren't working. We're also going to take a look back at this election cycle, what went right and what went wrong, and how we gear up for 2025 and beyond. Spoiler alert, we still got a lot of work to do, but we got to get the right values and the right people to do it. So whether you're out running errands, getting the turkey ready, or just taking a moment to unwind, stay tuned. This is going to be a wonderful, insightful conversation. You don't want to miss it. Let's get straight to it. So, Sean, and Jonathan,
yes.
You guys are starting. We're here with Urban Conservatives of America. Tell us a little about that.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, having us, if you will. Urban Conservatives of America is a nonprofit organization founded on the principles of faith, family, and freedom. And in addition to that, education. I think we have a problem in America with indoctrination across the board. And I think re-educating the community is where we should start. And this is what the concept was when we decided to start Urban Conservatives of America. We wanted to educate the people. I mean, once you know, it is your responsibility to teach. And the principles for which this country was founded on does not allow us to depend on the government to actually educate us about the nation that we were born in. I think it's the people's responsibility. If it's for the people, of the people, and by the people, it's the people's responsibility to educate its citizens. And this is where we were, and this is the approach that we thought was most important: education.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Sean, tell us a little about what you do in your role and how Urban Conservatives are fighting so hard.
Well, we wear many hats, as you see here. I am basically the support, I'm basically that neck for the head here, and we just work together to strategize on ways to best implement a lot of the most of the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Implement most of the things that is needed.
Yeah.
In the community. We both have the same understanding of how civics work. We also have a understanding of how these things, policy, have oppressed.
Right.
Oppression is not anything physical. It is in the pen. I quote Kamala Harris. She said, "With the stroke of a pen, I can change someone's life forever." That being said, we understand that. But most people who go and vote, they don't understand that. They don't understand. It's a dynamic. People think that symbols, particularly in the urban communities, the black communities, they think symbols are more important. Symbols does not change the condition. It only changes the position. It is the substance is why you vote. You vote to make changes, right? So her and I understand that, and this is what brought us together. We're excited about this movement. We have a lot of work to do because there's a lot of damage that have been done throughout decades. I'm talking about through the years, decades, through generations. So we're excited about educating people, as anyone should be, because it's your responsibility. If you know, tell.
Right,
so
right.
that people can be informed and we can make a better community for all of us.
Okay, and you all forgive me, it's pretty early for me, but the word I was looking for was initiatives. We just have a lot of different ways that we want to present that information that has been missing from the communities for a very long time. It has to be done in a relatable way. And I believe that's what the disconnect has been with the Republican Party and these urban areas that have been hardest hit by liberal ideologies. So we have a very unique approach to those things. We just have to have the resources to match that. But we are excited. This is a great time to be alive because we are in a position now that America has spoken and they say, you know what? We no longer want a symbol. We need some substance. They see what the symbols have done to us as a nation, and now they want to say, okay, well, now we need policies, right, that are going to affect us in a positive way in our everyday lives. So the harvest is really, really ripe for us to get out there now that people are open to something different and educate that voting base, and that's really what we're all about.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add on to what you're saying. America has spoken. You know,
Yeah.
the election is wrapping up. There's still some House races that are yet to be called, but we have won the House. We've won the Senate and the presidency, of course, by a very large margin. So we've got this all in place now. As a nation, what's the next stop for us to fix all the issues at home?
Education. Education is not going to only save, but it's going to preserve the nation. The
Which
left,
is what it means to be conservative.
yeah, the left understands this, unfortunately, a little bit more than we have historically, which is why they've been working so hard on their miseducation. They've been pushing that through the educational system. They've been pushing it through media, social media, radio, on every front. So instead of being on the defense, we need to be on the offense. So I really do think that we are headed in the right direction, but we need to make sure that people are willing to get behind those who are able and equipped to get the information out to the public. And we know that that's going to look differently depending on what areas you go into. So you're going to have those relatable individuals who are not only willing, but able to get that information to the voters.
Right. And our work has not ended. In fact, it's begun.
Yeah.
It's, as I said a few minutes ago, it's the people's responsibility. So I think now is the greatest time to hit the ground and plant those seeds so that when the next election comes around, see, we have to have expectations. If we don't have any goals or expectations on how to make our conditions better, how to make our community better, well, we get what we get. So this is the harvest is ripe, as you said. Yeah. As we speak, the time is now. We have 4 years. Of course, you said you got the midterms in a couple of years. So the time is now. The map shows that the people are ready for truth because they have rejected liberalism. And see, to be American, let me just say this, to be American has absolutely nothing to do with our differences. This is a multi-ethnic society. Any animal can see the difference between the ethnicities. But the human element is what we need to focus on. What does it mean to be American? It means, what do we have in common? Our commonalities is what's important. Liberalism divides us by the things that we don't have in common, which is irrelevant. So we have to focus on what must we all do. It doesn't matter what community you're from. What makes our community better as a whole? People want crime lowered. They want people to be able to get jobs. You see, when we cut crime and decrease the unemployment, now this is making a difference in the community. We have too many people that are unemployed. We have too many people that's on government assistance. What we're trying to do is liberate everybody. This is not a black thing. It's not a white thing. It's not an Asian thing. It's an American thing. What do we have in common? And when we discover that, that's where our focus must be and should remain.
Yeah, so at the start, you talked about having a plan moving forward so that we could address the things that happen. And what we've seen before in Trump's last term,
Correct.
he didn't have as much of a plan because he was surprised that he was going to win. That's what they told us, that he was surprised that he was going to win. What do you think is different from this time around, from President Trump, from his cabinet picks to his platform? What do you think is different from this time around and his plan moving forward?
I think experience is the greatest teacher, you know, and that's not just your experience, but the experience of people that were against you. So now you have a plan to navigate around those obstacles, if you will. So he learned a lot during his first administration, but sometimes things happen. In fact, 100% of the time, things happen for a reason. And that reason is so that you can get experience because you're coming back. And now you would know how to navigate. You would know who to put in what position so that you can get things done. We don't want to go back to, he doesn't want to have that experience again to where he was attacked and he spent 4 years dealing with things that had nothing to do with the people, right? Mm-hmm. But everything to do with the quote unquote establishment. So now he's prepared to move forward and make a difference for the American people that voted for him. I think experience is the key word.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so John's father was a pastor. And he said his father had a great quote, the fool is owed nothing but experience. You know, it's the greatest teacher, right? Experience. And so not only with President Trump, the people themselves, right? They've had the experience of the last 4 years under a Biden administration and those treacherous policies and what they meant. And we felt the weight of that, especially in urban areas. So we all learned a very valuable lesson. I think that President Trump going in, he understood somewhat what he was up against, but when he really got into the thick of things, he quickly learned that it was much more than he could ever imagine as far as the corruption across the board. So what he learned during his presidency and then even thereafter was that symbols, right? Somebody that may look good, sound good, speak good, right? Smell good, whatever. They may not actually be the best person for the job. They may not be a good person at all, meaning they may lack integrity. So he has learned the good players, the bad players, and this time around, he is more informed. He can make better picks as far as who is best qualified and who has the best interests of the nation at heart and not their own. So we see a Trump presidency this go around that is not only wise, they're informed, and they are ready to hit the ground. They understand what they are up against, and they have a plan. And I think it says a lot that even before he was elected, he already had a transitional team in place. So he's ready, and he's capable, and I believe the next 4 years are going to be the best 4 years we've had in a very long time here in America.
Absolutely. And I want to move into a little bit about his cabinet picks. Historically, he just nominated last night Scott Turner, I believe, to be Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Yes. Historically, that position has been held by an African American. And the administrations before, they had all had African Americans being the secretary of that department. How important is it to Black American, African Americans that we have African American representation or just an African American in the cabinet at all?
Well, personally, it's not important to me at all. It depends on where we are now. Back to those liberals, they use, like I said earlier, the things that we don't have in common, right? So we have to get away from symbolism and tokenism and get back to substance. It doesn't matter whether he places someone that looks like me in position of his cabinet. That doesn't have anything to do with nothing, right? What matters is that, will he make a difference? That's all that matters. When I travel and I get on an airplane, I don't look in the cockpit to see a black man right? Simply because I want somebody that look like me to fly. I'm hoping that whoever it is in there can get me to my destination safely.
Yeah.
That is the goal. So we get away from this token. It's not important at all. Sometimes the best thing, God can use anybody to bless you. And I know it's just not a Christian station, but I'm just going to keep it real. God can use anybody to bless you. You don't get to choose who brings your blessing to your door. That is God's decision, right? So this is where we are. We got to get away from that symbolism and that symbol and focus on substance. This is how we've gotten so far behind as a people, not just black people, but everybody. We have to get away from the symbolism and let's focus on substance. That is what's important. It is not important to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I totally agree. What does the person bring to the table, right? Do they have to look a certain kind of way? Of course, we don't, we have to present ourselves. But just because somebody dresses a certain way, like I was saying before, is articulate, is likable, that doesn't necessarily mean that is the best person for the job. And so whereas I do think he's looking for the right people to fill his cabinet, I don't think he is necessarily looking for that symbol, but it may be that he picked this particular person who I do believe is qualified, probably is a little bit relatable, as far as the condition of urban America. So I do think it was a good pick, but I don't believe it was because he was looking for a symbol at all. Across the board, I think he's learned his lesson.
I think it's relatability.
And this time he is picking those who best fit that position and who can hit the ground running and truly make a difference.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think that if we continue to, say, hey, well, this position's been held by this person for so long, so I guess we have to keep it that way. In no way is that pushing us for what that is. It's holding us to that standard. Okay,
right.
Well, I guess that's the only thing, that position is for you for that reason.
Right.
I don't think that's okay, and I don't think we should have that status quo. But I do want to move into really quickly the Attorney General. So Matt Gaetz was nominated to be the Attorney General a few days ago, and he's been on the Senate floor just in the Senate fighting to make sure that he has the votes. Yeah. However, we had 5 members of the Senate GOP who said that they would refuse to vote for Matt Gaetz in any shape, form, or fashion. I believe it was Susie Collins from Maine. It would be Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, Mitt Romney from Utah, and the senator from Alaska, I forget her name, but the senator from Alaska, and one other senator who they haven't named yet, but it was that person. So Matt Gaetz took the bold action and the honorable action, to be honest, and said that he was going to withdraw his name from the nomination because he did not want to distract this administration and this transition team from being able to fulfill its duties and focusing all their energy into ensuring that they have the votes for the Attorney General race. President Trump accepted it, and he then nominated Florida as a former Attorney General to succeed that position. I just want to get you guys' opinion. What do you think about Matt Gaetz's decision in that fact?
I think that it was a respectful and an honorable thing to do, to step aside, because he doesn't want to hold up the process, right? So even though he put aside how this may make him look, and I believe he looked at the bigger picture. It's more important for him to have an administration where Trump, on day one, he says he wants to hit the ground running. So anything that would impede that, he said, okay, I will step aside and I will allow the process to go forward. It doesn't mean that he won't continue to fight. I believe he will. And, I believe at the end of the day that things work out the way that they're supposed to. One thing that we see with the left and one thing that we see with the rhinos that partner with them is that anytime they get somebody that is threatening their establishment, because right now that's what you have, the grassroots that are fighting against the establishment, we the people. And so they cry wolf, they cry sexual, all of these allegations start to come forward of women that says that this person has done this to me or that to me or whatever. Well, now they don't have to worry about that. They have a woman that has been nominated. So what are they going to say about her, who is well qualified? So I just believe that he did the best thing for America, not necessarily the best thing for Matt Gaetz, and that says a lot about who he is as a person.
Right. I was going to say the same thing. What he did was admirable and honorable because the position wasn't important as changing the conditions in America, and we spoke about that. So I think that was a great move. He get a lot of respect from me. You don't want to come in the door with distractions because we have too much work to do. Yeah. So anything that will spell distraction, let's get rid of it, even if it's him. So he got out of the way. His love for the country, it outweighs his love for that position. So in that regard, he gets a lot of respect from me.
Absolutely. And I want to keep on the topic for cabinet picks just for a second. Just last night, President Trump nominated former Small Business Administrator Linda McMahon to be the Secretary of Education.
Yes.
And she was gladly accepted that, and a lot of the members of the education community has came out in support of her. However, the Democratic Party has called her unqualified, and a long list of names. I don't think would be appropriate for me to say on the air. But what do you guys think about Linda McMahon as a pick, and what do you think Trump's plans are in pursuant of the Department of Education, and how he plans to ensure that states have more control over their education other than widespread national overreach?
Right. Well, first of all, I don't know much about her, but I will say if the Democrats are calling her everything under the sun, she's got to be a great pick. Right. She's got to be. And in terms of the education initiative or lack thereof of Donald Trump, I think bringing it to the states puts it into the states, the people of that state's responsibility, kind of like the abortion issue. Yeah. From a national perspective, this is what has gotten us here. The cultural Marxism and the DEI and all of this stuff, putting people in position that aren't qualified simply because they are from a quote unquote minority community or a disenfranchised community. So I think it's wise to do that because from a national standpoint, you have education that is being pushed on children that most people don't accept, right? There's things we're not going to talk about it right now, but most people know, if you're informed, that they're teaching children, things that the children aren't being taught at home. So that's problematic, and Trump understands that. I think it's wise to leave it to the states. In other words, let a person's decision be his consequences. Don't let it be the consequence. Don't let the decision come from the government, right? So if you believe in whatever they're pushing, you vote for it, accept it, but those consequences are yours. So you don't enforce, and this is what it means to live in a free country. The government cannot enforce things that necessarily you don't believe in. You have to give people the liberty to make their own decisions, and guess what? They have to accept the consequences of their own decisions. So I think it's genius what he's doing, considering some of the curriculum that they're trying to push on our children.
100%. And as he was saying, he wants to put people in place that are going to put the power back into the hands of we the people. Little government, right? We need a little bit of government, but we don't want big government. We don't want a few people deciding for the whole nation what our children learn and what is pushed through our school systems. And so I think it is, I don't know a lot about this new pick, but he is definitely putting people in position who are America first. Putting America first is putting we the people, the citizens first. For the people, by the people, for the people, right? So I think it's important not to have critical race theory pushed across. It's important not to have all of the sexualization that has been pushed through the school systems. it's important not to have them teaching. We just need to teach reading, writing, arithmetic. And I believe every American can agree with that. So outside of that, nothing should be pushed down to the states at the federal level, period.
Absolutely, and I can agree. And President Trump has been an advocate for when it comes to education in all shapes, forms, and fashions. Just for one instance example, historical black colleges. President Trump was one of the few presidents, or I think he was the only president who expanded the amount of funding that historical black colleges got. They came, the historical black colleges used to come to Washington, D.C., and they used to have to beg for money from the federal government to be able to keep afloat. All right. President Trump essentially wrote them a check and said, don't even come. Okay. Here's the funding that you need plus a little extra. Next, he said, the next time that you come here, I don't want you to beg for money. I want you to tell us how great you're doing educating the community.
Amen.
And that right there sets the tone for his presidency. And it really debunks a lot of these things where everyone calls him racist, misogynistic, all of these things. I mean, I don't know what racist is going to try and do something of that magnitude.
Right.
So when he clearly cares about education.
Yes.
And he has experts around him that are showing that the Department of Education is corrupt.
Yes.
It's full of indoctrination.
Yes.
And indoctrination has widespread. I mean, indoctrination has become so large, and the liberal agenda, the woke agenda has become so large that they're even expanding it to the military.
Yes.
I wouldn't think that, we'd have this theory or these ideas being projected so far even into the military. The strongest fighting force in the United States of America is implementing DEI policies.
Yes.
I don't want, regardless if my generals are white, black, Asian, Hispanic, gay, straight, whatever you are, I need you to be a good strategist, a good general. I don't care what color you are.
Right.
And the fact that this has become even implemented into the largest fighting force in the United States of America, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, it makes sense. They've just now failed. The Department of Defense has just failed their 7th consecutive audit.
Right.
They have not been able to tell us where the over $800 billion that we spend, word goes, word happens, and they're in charge of overseeing a lot of the funds that go to countries like Ukraine, that we've continue to send billions and billions of dollars for. They can't tell us where that's gone.
Right.
And so how do we ensure that we are still making the right decisions when it comes to our money, being fiscally conservative, being fiscally responsible, if we can't find the money? And how are we going to address those issues if we don't even know where the money is? How do we address the issues at home if we can't even address the issues abroad?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. The only thing the American people have gotten for the last 12 years prior to the Trump election is taxed.
Yeah.
That's all we get. That's all. The establishment, this is what the American people get: taxed, which is overburden, right? Oppression, economic oppression. It's a form of slavery. You got free people that are oppressed with tax legislation across the board. So what we have is a man that understands this. We have a man say, you know what, this is wrong. Let these people go. Let these people live their lives. They should not have to work, right? And dump all of their tax, and pay so much tax and the tax go overseas, right? When do the fruits of our labor benefit us? When? At what point do our hard work benefit the American people? Right. So Donald Trump intervened. He intercepted the plan. He decided to run for president. He's now our servant. He's our commander-in-chief. And everything that I just said, he understands, and he looks to change that. We're tired of we are burdened with tax and legislation, right? and regulations. We're sick and tired of all of our money going overseas. We're sick and tired of all of our money being given to people that come here illegally. So he's focused, his America First agenda is why America went out and elected him. America ignored all of the rhetoric, all of the propaganda, all of the emotionalism, and they said, you know what? It's common sense. America first. It doesn't matter your gender, the community you come from, all that is irrelevant. It goes back to what we said earlier about what we have in common. This is where his focus is. Let's focus on the common concerns of the American people, right? Because we all are affected by illegal immigration. We all are affected by government regulations. We all are affected and concerned about our money going overseas to things that we really have no knowledge of.
Right, yeah.
It is time that we benefit for being American and not the world.
Yes. And not only are they doing that, they're taking our tax dollars and they are sending them overseas, but they are putting them into so many different programs that are being used against us in this indoctrination camp that they have created through the educational system. So the left understands if you can control the mind, you can control the way that people vote and the way that they move and view things in
And the way they live.
society.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it's a great thing that Trump wants to put the power back into the hands of the people, right? School choice is big. If you have competition there across the board, then schools are forced to perform. A lot of, and you said that many people do call Trump racist, correct? But his policies say different. His policies say, you know what?
That's where the truth is.
That's where the truth is, because those who have been hardest hit by those liberal ideologies, unfortunately, are in the urban areas and in the black areas. You understand what I'm saying? These are the lower performing schools, and they get the short end of the stick. So with school choice, now you force those underperforming schools to pick it up, or they will be non-performing schools, right? Because people will be sending their children to private schools or other schools that have more to offer. So I really do appreciate his America First agenda, and that it includes the schools.
Right. Your socioeconomic situation should not dictate the quality of education your children get.
Right.
It's unfair. So school choice eliminates that. If your child is a high performer and can run with the intellectuals, that's where he needs to be. He does not need to be around, he needs to be around his peers, if you will. So it's a great initiative, and America supported it.
Absolutely, and I think school choice is a very, very important thing. We have a lot of schools right here in Houston that don't perform well in terms of academics, in terms of just all about, and having them being told that you are going to have to compete, or we're going to move schools, and if you move schools, the funding moves as well, because that's how most funding works in Texas. The money goes with the child.
Yes.
So if you have that system in place, you're forcing schools to up their game, to do and make sure that they're being and taking care of their students correctly and in the right places. The Texas Legislative is meeting this January about school choice, just to reaffirm it and to get it a very strong school choice bill that Governor Abbott has been advocating for a very, very long time. Getting that passed through the legislative, making sure they've spent a lot of money, making sure they had the votes to ensure that happened. And we tried to get a school choice bill passed last session, but it was blocked by Dade Phelan and the Democrats. So how important, and I know we spoke a little about how important school choice is, but what does a perfect school system with a perfect school choice plan look like for you guys, and how does this help develop urban communities and folks that don't have access to the best education in our current system?
That is a very, very great question. I tell you, some things are what they are. You can't put everybody on the same plateau, if you will. You know what I mean? Educationally, you just can't. People, some kids are going to perform different. I don't care what the quality of education is, right? And some people are going to go through it, right? It doesn't matter. Kids that are smart will be smart, period. It doesn't matter what the condition is. But to keep him bound, a high performing child, right, bound in an environment to where he cannot grow is wrong. You have to put him where he can excel. Now, let's just be real. Everybody don't make the same grades. It's just true. I went to school. Everybody in the class, just some people are not focused, others are. Some people are not driven, others are, right? So to dump all the money, we have to learn how to deal with reality. We cannot put everybody in the same category. I say you have to deal with whatever this situation is over here, you have to deal with that. Whatever that situation is, you have to deal with that. We're not the same. Intellectually, in terms of education, we're just not. And we can't pretend that we are. And I think that's just another form of cultural Marxism. You're trying to say that all this entire group of people are intellectually equal, right? You know, it's kind of like DEI. It's kind of like what's the other thing they was trying to put in school?
With the CRT.
The critical race theory. You know that concept was based on the idea that everybody from that same community are generally on the same intellectual, which is not true. That's the biggest lie ever told, because we were all created by a creator. We all make decisions, and it's just not true. There is no category of who's the smartest people. There isn't. It isn't. We're all human, and we all have that potential, and we can't just X out people, because of test scores or whatever. But we're just not the same, and you can't limit one group of people as being intellectual and the other group as being something other than intellectual. And that's what that critical race theory and all this was based on. Right. And that's just another form of cultural Marxism.
Right. Because who a person is on the inside has no color.
That's the
basically,
nail. You nailed
it. And so you have to create an environment where children are able to thrive, right? Where there are no limits, and that's the bottom line. It would push people to be able to teach at a level where they are able to reach the children who are excelling and those who may learn in a different way. Like you said, it would force them to up their game.
Right.
Because you are dealing with different children, different levels of intellect, different personalities, different learning abilities, different ways that they learn. It would force these schools to up their game, understand the children, to be able to properly educate those students. No student left behind, yes, but you have to make sure that they get what they need.
Right.
No, don't just pass them along.
Right. Now let me
for
also
the sake
add,
of not being left
correct.
behind.
And let me also add, keep in mind, this is, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just don't want to lose this thought.
Totally cut
well,
me
I
off.
apologize. but let me say this. At the end of the day, it's government school, right? So keep that in mind. It's government school. So we will never control government school. We have to control what our children is being taught us. I think the responsibility is on the people. But there's something else that we must contend with also. Some people will never afford private school. A lot of people won't. Some people will never have the time to teach their own. So when we talk about government school, we do the best we can because we're doing it for the people that have no choice but to send their children to government school, because government school will always control the curriculum.
Right.
Always. Right. Because it's government school.
Yes.
So and it goes back to what you said about him and the Department of Education. This is what he understands.
And that's where I was headed, is that the dollars will follow the child, right? So whether it be homeschool, private school, or public school, the parent gets to choose the best form of education for their child, because we all learn differently. So you may have a student that thrives in homeschool. Some children need a little bit more interaction, right? So they need to be in that public school setting. And then others, well, I need something just a little bit more controlled. private school. And so that puts the power back into the hands of we the people, the parents, and to choose the best learning environment for our children.
Right. It's unrealistic to expect everybody to
Right.
learn at the same pace. It's
Right.
unrealistic.
Right.
So why do we continue to think that this is something that we should expect? It's unrealistic.
Absolutely. And I think, and I agree, and schools have become the ultimate place for indoctrination. They have become home base for indoctrination from all levels of to gender ideology, to sexual orientation, to all of these things.
Yeah.
They've all been that. Just recently, one of the third largest school district in Texas, CFISD, passed a board resolution that would bar, would allow, to force students to use the restrooms that they were, to the sex that they were born as.
Okay.
And they passed that bill, and they passed that resolution, and it had a lot of backlash from members of the community
Yeah.
over that, because they felt as if it wasn't an important issue that needs to be addressed. They said, we don't need to address it. It's not important. It's, you're wasting the community's time by doing that. That's what they said. And we've seen that at the state level as well. Just recently, the school board, the state school board, Board of Education, yesterday passed a resolution which allowed for curriculum to include scriptures of the Bible in
Yes.
elementaries.
I saw that. Yes.
So we've already seen the motion of trying to end indoctrination
Yes.
from the local levels to the now state level, and when we get Trump back in office, we'll have it at the national level as well. Do you believe that this is the steps necessary
100%.
to start fixing this issue?
100%. You're getting back to the founding of this nation. I mean, you can't we have a lot of different faiths here, but you can't get away from, we are the land of the free. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. This is a Judeo-Christian nation. This is how it was founded. And this is why we indulge in the freedoms that we do. It's because they are inalienable rights. So getting back to that foundation of including scripture in school, taking the power from government, Pharaoh, if you will, and putting it back into the hands of we the people, a free nation, that is definitely a step in the right direction. And we need to definitely continue in that direction and run a good race towards that goal of becoming the America that we once were. Really, that MAGA agenda, making America great again.
Yeah, and it is never a waste of time or resources to assign people based on the gender of their birth. It's common sense.
Yeah.
And that goes along with what you said about getting back to the foundation. Furthermore, schools should mind their business, right? It is not the government didn't assign the gender in the first place, so they can't govern or regulate it. It is what it is. Let's get back to common sense. If a person wants to believe or think that they're whatever, that's them. But you cannot enforce this on everybody. Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to the foundation. And that's just the closest we're going to get to being happy. And most importantly, being free.
Yes.
Happiness is not guaranteed. But freedom, we believe that was given to us by God and not by government. And the government should stay in their place when it in regards to agendas, particularly in school. That's just overreach. That's just outrageous. Let's focus on what's important.
Yes.
Right? I think everybody knows what gender they are.
Absolutely. And I think that's become what the indoctrination has. That's like one of the main things is
Yes.
that if we've, codified this to be allowed, when we've allowing men to play in women's sports,
Yeah.
allowing them to be in the restrooms with women, and that's where the indoctrination spreads the largest.
Yeah.
Because their messaging on it is simple. If that's what they want to do, let them do it. But when you're saying that to that extent, to embarging into the private space of women,
Yes.
I think that we lose that sense of, or women lose that sense of security
Yes.
and comfortability in their own flesh and skin.
Yes.
And that is why we have so much of this happening. We've passed legislation just recently. We've elected our first transgendered member of Congress, and let me not get in trouble here. They wanted to use the women's restroom because they've transitioned over to a woman now. They wanted to use the Capitol's women's restroom. The Speaker Johnson banned and said that you can't do that. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Yes.
And now they're trying to pass a bill which would enforce Speaker Johnson's rule across all federal buildings. And I think that's that's the steps that we need to take. Now,
Right.
you can, and I can agree with Jonathan here. You can do whatever you want. Okay, God gave us free will.
Right.
He gave us free will. I'm not going to say what he believes on that matter because I don't know, but he gave us free wills, and if that's a decision you want to make with your life, you can go ahead and do that. However, you can't force us to allow that to happen. The government has no right to tell you that we're going to allow this person to invade your private space.
Right.
Okay, and that is how we stop this right here, is by saying you can do whatever you want, but you're not going to invade the private spaces and the private things that we hold dear.
Right.
So just the topic of indoctrination is
Yeah,
a
it's
very
deep.
pressing issue.
It
Right.
is.
Anybody that transitions and expects me to accommodate his transition, he's transitioning me as well.
Yeah.
Right. So let's everybody, whatever you do, you do. Whatever I do, I do. Don't invite me into things that I don't agree with, and I will give you the same level of respect.
Right. And, we can't control how someone feels. We can't control what they do, nor can we control the truth. We can't control what's right or wrong. So if you were born a female, you are a female. If you were born a male, you are a male. That's what is true. And when we blur those lines, then we get men's and women's restrooms. We get men and women's sports, and we see women legally being beat up on national television. This is, we have to get back to the standard of truth.
Right. Because they always try to make it a love-hate thing.
Right.
If I don't agree with you, I hate you. That's not true.
Right.
That's not true at all. Maybe it's that you don't hate me. I mean, maybe you hate me because, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not doing what you're doing. So you see the irony?
Yes.
Right, and the projection there?
Right.
It has nothing to do
No,
with
it
hate.
doesn't,
It has everything to do with me respecting your decision.
Correct.
And you, in return, respecting mine.
Where
It's
I stand
that
on
simple.
it. Yeah, love rejoices in truth. Right? So we have to be able to unapologetically stand on those truths and fight for those truths, fight for what is right and what is wrong. We cannot legislate what is wrong.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. If we legislate what is wrong, we are headed in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing. We have legislated what is wrong and enforce what is wrong.
Yeah.
And we see that right here in Harris County as the crime rate continues to go down.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have elected a slate of conservative Republican judges who are going to stop the practices of former Democratic judges who are letting criminals out on bonds, and some are $0 bonds, $5 bonds, things that you might just have in your pocket.
Yeah.
They're letting them out to the criminals, and then they can repeat the crime that they committed. And crime is run rapid in large cities that are governed by Democrats and Democrats in that nature.
Right.
How do we, even if we can't win the seats in these cities, how can we ensure that these cities are still safe to raise children in?
Well, I mean, if you don't have no political power, you don't have no power at all.
Right.
Either you're gonna, fight, vote them out.
Yeah.
We just have to stay in the fight. We have to stay in the fight. It's a never-ending battle. We have to run them. Never let them run unopposed.
Yes.
And this is the perfect time. This is the perfect
is.
time. Our eyes are open. If you look at the map, it tells you everything you need to know.
Right.
Look at the map. It tells you everything. We have the harvest is ripe, and we have to stay in the fight. People are ready to hear change. They're ready for new faces, new ideas,
Right.
new realities. People are ready for it, and the time is now. That is how we do. We stay in the fight. Don't let these people run unopposed, and sooner or later we'll beat them because the people are ready for change.
And don't let their lies go forth unopposed.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have some people that have written off particular parts of town.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like you say, they let those seats run unopposed. Put somebody in there that is qualified. But not only that, you have to educate that voting base. They need to understand why they've been voting the same and getting much the same. It should seem like a no-brainer, but they need to understand how these policies affect them in their everyday lives, including the crime and the poverty, right?
Right.
And the poverty produces more of the crime.
Right.
The crime produces more of the poverty. So we need to get to a particular group of people and help them to understand that, hey, this is what these policies do. This is what these policies could produce if they would be willing just to make a change. So,
let me add, if I will, one of the most important things that I pray and hope that Donald Trump focuses on, number one, social media censorship.
a big one.
We cannot be censored, because if we cannot speak, if the truth is being censored, well, then there can be no moving forward. We have to get our voices back. It is very important.
Yeah.
It is the truth that sets people free. And why do they fear ordinary people on social media speaking their mind? You know why? Because that speaks to how powerful the truth is. So one of the first things he should do, and I'm talking about these major platforms, Facebook, Instagram, we have to get rid of the conservative censorship. It's discrimination. That is very, very important. This is how you kill propaganda, when ordinary people can say things and make people think. This is what they don't want. So censorship has to be at the top of, and I'm talking about in the first week.
Yeah. And I think we're in our last minutes here, so I want to make sure we have enough time for everybody to get out there and plug their information. So just your final message to America, to everybody watching, and to urban conservatives and urban voters in general, your final message and your information, and plug all that stuff there.
We have to understand what we're voting for. We have to understand who we are as a nation. We have to get back to our roots. And to do all of that, we have to be able to reach the people where they are. We have to have those that are on the ground who are willing, able, capable, equipped to go out into those urban centers in a relatable way and give this information to the people who need it the most. Education will definitely preserve and save our nation. That is key. So please follow us. This is Urban Conservatives of America, uca.us.org, and join us. Help us to get this message across.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for that, co-founder. Yes, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. The most important thing that we should focus on is not our differences. I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
We can look in the mirror and say we're different. No, let's focus on the things that we have in common. And then when we do that, we'll find the things that we hold most dear that are in common. We are all Americans. This is a country where nobody should be oppressed in any shape, form, or fashion. And oppression comes through policy. Focus on what matters. We want conditions change, not position.
Yes.
Thank you for having us on the show today, sir. It was a pleasure to sit down and chat with you, and I look forward to more.
Absolutely. And this is the Chris Heasley Show on Radio DeBang 99.5. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Join us next Saturday, where Chris will hopefully be back. This is Caleb Holmes. You can follow me at Real Caleb Holmes on Twitter or Instagram. Thank you so much for watching.